Over the last year, an alleged £10 million scam has quietly been spreading like wildfire across our entire community. Muslims keep falling for scams, and I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm really not. Have a watch of this.
Okay, so what's your plan now, bro? What's your family saying about this? Has your family even know? Does your wife know?
My wife's gonna know. She's gonna divorce me, I think. Just want to come clean. I've been dishonest and I've made mistakes. I should have opened up earlier. And I would apologize to you guys. I just want to come clean. I know in the worst case scenario, I'll admit that it's my fault. None of you guys are to blame for anything. You're just following my lead and direction. But I just want to come clean, and I know that we can turn this around.
This video won't be a direct response to what we have just seen, but instead a wider look at why exactly are Muslims so vulnerable to scams and what we can do today to protect ourselves. I'll also share some thoughts on where I think future scams are going to be coming from and attacking our community. So stick around for that. For those of you new to this channel, I'm Ibrahim, and since 2016 I've helped millions of Muslims with their personal finances and investing. I run an investment platform called Curate Capital. I've written a best-selling book and hold qualifications in Islamic law, investment management and corporate law. Let's begin. As a community, we are extremely susceptible to scams for a bunch of reasons, all of which center around this one institution. Firstly, we are still actually a community with strong family ties, friends, local masajid ties and networks. And this is something to be incredibly proud of in an increasingly individualized and atomized and lonely world. But it also makes us very vulnerable. Because the thing with financial and investment scams is they need to create that legitimacy and trust for it to work. And what better place is there to create the trust and legitimacy than having members of your own congregation referring you to a particular investment that turns out to be a scam, or your own family that you meet at places like a masjid referring you to this scammer. And what's even better than that is when the scam itself is cloaked in a garb of Islam, in a garb of piety and religion. Secondly, more than any other community that I've seen, we lean in on this whole get-rich-quick scheme bandwagon. And therefore, we are more than any other community ready to believe in people when they claim fantastical claims. And lastly, we are unfortunately woefully undercooked when it comes to our own financial education. So when proposals come to you and I, and you happen to not know your stocks from your sukuks, you're like a rabbit in headlights. You have no certain information to anchor yourself to. So in absence of that, you just give in to the positive vibes that you're getting and just trust in that. And those missteps, those misplaced trusts are today costing some people in excess of £100,000 in losses. Losses that they really cannot afford, that are going to cause their kids to not be able to go to university, that are going to cause them to lose their house and possibly their job and put a friction in their marriage. As a side note, by the way, if you are one of those people who have unfortunately fallen victim to a scam, I know it's hurtful and possibly slightly embarrassing, but if you can find the courage to speak up and actually share what happened, that can save countless other people from falling down the same manhole that you found yourself in and saving them their hard-earned money. I'll share a number of tips throughout this video on how to avoid scams, and I've asked my friend Umer from Wahid to help me out with some of his own tips. Let's hear from him.
My advice to avoid being scammed is if anybody is offering any type of investment, go and see on Companies House. If somebody's asking you to invest in them as a business, are they on Companies House? Does everything match up? If the person is saying that they're offering you an opportunity to invest in candles made in Birmingham, for example, and you go onto Companies House and there's a company registered that sells rubber ducks made in Wales, then something should be telling you that this is off. So check Companies House, does everything match up? Now, more specifically, I would also say if anybody is taking money from you as an investment, then they have to do due diligence on you as well. They have a duty of care, and from a financial crimes perspective, they need to know where your money is coming from. So if they aren't taking your ID and they're not asking any questions like this, then this should be a big alarm bell. Also, I would say is make sure that the money you send across goes into a business bank account. If somebody's asking for money in their personal bank account and they say break it up into small installments installments, etc., say no. If they are a legit business, they will go through the hurdles of setting themselves up properly, have a business bank account. Do not send money to a personal bank account, or if they say, can you send it to person X, Y, and Z? Again, do not do this. And finally, do ask the question of other people who invested. If you're not sure, say, can I speak to somebody who's already invested with you? In the past, I've tried to do this, and at that point, they'll say, oh yeah, we have loads of reviews and loads of comments. And I say, let me speak to someone. And if they aren't forthcoming, or they will say, okay, look, let me put you in touch with someone, or let that person contact you. If they have investors and investors are happy, they will be normally more than happy to share their experience. If they're not doing this, then again, alarm bells.
Look, this news is obviously deeply worrying, but it won't be the last. And if anything, I think we need to be even more cautious about scams than ever before. And not just the elderly, by the way, even the young tech-savvy folks are getting duped these days. To my mind, there are 4 key areas of concern for me right now. The first is Ponzi schemes. The second is crypto. The third is fake AI impersonations. And the final thing is high-ticket courses and coaching and communities. Let's start with the first of those, which is Ponzi schemes. And this is where someone takes money from new investors to pay fake returns to the earlier investors. There's no actual investment or returns being generated. And at some point, when the new money stops coming in, the house of cards collapses. And the person who gave in the money last is the one holding the baby. These scams are as old as communities themselves, and they will swing around again and again in different guises in due course. And the way to avoid them is by thorough financial education and just surrounding yourself with people who know what they're talking about. Because if you're surrounded by folks who happen to believe that Bigfoot is real, soon he will become real to you as well. But if you anchor yourself to folks who are grounded in facts, you're just less likely to be duped. And this is a message to future founders of Ponzi schemes. You probably are watching this right now and thinking, that's not me. I can't believe someone would do this to these vulnerable people. But you know what? You will end up in the same place because you made crazy promises to your investors. You perhaps started off with sincere intentions, and then you saw that if you make a crazy promise on social media, the click-through rate goes crazy. And then you thought, well, look, as long as I can actually convert these leads, I'm going to make good on these crazy promises. And thus the descent into madness and scamming begins. So here's a sincere message to you guys. Do not buy into the social media hype. It does not end well. The second area of concern is crypto. It looks like we're finally entering another bull run post-Trump's election. And this is a time when fortunes will be made and lost, and made quickly and lost quickly as well. And whenever money, especially money based often on nothing more than just hype, I'm looking at you meme coins, is changing hands this fast, scammers will naturally flock to it like flies to the light. The most common crypto scams can be avoided though, if you don't invest in something that someone has DM'd you about. No legitimate company is going around DMing anyone. You don't need to click on any links that other people have sent you that you don't know. Instead, you should search for reputable crypto exchanges yourself, do your own research, and buy and sell crypto at your own pace and where you control the actual buying and selling of it rather than someone coming to you. You generally should avoid putting your money into tiny random altcoins, or if you absolutely must do that, then don't put a huge amount of your portfolio in there. The third area of concern for me is AI impersonations. Scammers have actually already tried to impersonate me using AI, but as you can see, this was the poor attempt. Look, make no mistake about this though, the technology is going to get better and better each day, and scammers will also improve. And before you know it, there will be many AI impersonations going on of people that people look towards as trustworthy figures. So once again, folks, don't even believe what your eyes are telling you alone. Instead, control that path. Because sure, you might be seeing something really convincing, AI of me perhaps, telling you to transfer crypto over to you. But look at where is it hosted? How did you come across this? Where were you sent this link? Did you see an ad? Because all of these things will build a picture for you if this is actually a credible claim or not. What you should do is to go on our website yourself. Don't click on any link, just go on the website yourself, type in a different platform, in a different browser, different device, just type in Islamic Finance Guru investguru.com or whatever the website is, and check if we're actually making these kind of mad claims on the website itself. Because if there's no sign of that going on over there, and there's no sign of it going on in our actual official social media handles, and these are the actual official social media handles right here, if we're not making those claims there, then the likelihood is that you are unfortunately going to be dealing with a fake account. And there are multiple fake accounts, unfortunately, with names, by the way, that look very similar to ours or the company or person that they're trying to impersonate. So make sure that you are actually checking this through very, very carefully. And here are some examples of fake IFG accounts on Instagram and TikTok primarily, but also across the internet. So make sure that you take your time when it comes to investing. Take a week if you need to. Don't get pressurized into investing very fast. Anyone doing that to you, especially over DMs or Telegrams or WhatsApps, is likely a scammer. Anyone sending you payment codes and telling you to make payments over WhatsApp is likely a scammer.
And I know it's one thing me telling you about scams, but let's actually hear from one of our team who nearly fell for a very realistic scam.
If it's too good to be true, then it is. I was actually watching live Elon Musk's Falcon Heavy rocket launch, and around 11,000 people are watching. And so basically, I thought I was watching Elon Musk giving a speech. He was saying as a celebration, if you have crypto, then, scan this QR code and we'll double your crypto. So if you put in £1,000, we'll double it. And I literally fell for it because it was him giving this speech in front of 11,000 people. And to my surprise, looking deep into it, I find out that it was a fake. It was a scam. So be very careful of these fake accounts, live announcements. It's crazy.
Look, folks, I've thought long and hard about including this category in here, but ultimately I have, and here's why. You see, high-ticket courses, coaching, communities are not scams. Let me repeat, they are not scams, and sometimes they may even work, and many people do find them useful. And just because something is really expensive and premium doesn't automatically make it a scam. But there is something off about the whole thing. You see, the free top of the funnel webinar, the hard sell, the upsell after that on the webinar, the crazy prices for the products, the promise of success and riches without very much work. And then you turn up and it's a really cheap course that doesn't really give you any value, and then you have to do a whole bunch of work to actually get anywhere. And you could have got all of this information for free on the internet. Anyone who is from a professional investing or legal background runs a mile from this stuff. There are now multiple Muslims across the world who are leaning into this trend. They are learning from the mainstream equivalents and they're going down a path. They're charging people sometimes £1,000 for 5 minutes of their time. People who have come out of nowhere, and they're also very young, have apparently come to incredible success. People whose videos are well shot, they are well groomed, they are well dressed. People who are young and handsome and much, prettier looking than I am. People who associate with other high trust figures to bask in their reflected authority. And I'm genuinely worried about this trend. Because you see, the influencers who are going down this path are, as far as I know, sincere. But it's a slippery slope. From success at selling a legitimate course at £5,000 to letting that success go to your head and moving on to 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 products instead, and largely selling the same thing still, sooner or later, that is going to come and bite you, and it's going to bite the entire community. It is technically not a scam, but it is overpriced and it is potentially missold. And it's a slippery slope from there, folks, into a full-on scam. All it takes is severe financial stress. Let's say you've sold this course to 20 or so people and they all come knocking and say, we want this money back, but you spent the money. That's financial stress. You get severe imposter syndrome when all of this is happening around you. And then you might have some mental health pressure, and voila, a sincere Muslim has become a scammer. So folks, I'm not naming any names, but this message is targeted at any influencer on this path or thinking about monetizing their social media even now that haven't gone down this path but are considering it. My advice to you is do things the right way, not the wrong way. And if you don't know which is which, don't do anything at all. Your reputation is worth far more than that. There's no easy way to completely avoid a scam, unfortunately, but there are some techniques that can help. And remember, these scammers are absolutely ruthless, very tech savvy, and constantly innovating. And the older you get, unfortunately, the more at a disadvantage you are, because our wealth is necessarily stored and accessible only with technology. So if you're over 50 and you're just generally not that tech savvy, you need to pay particular attention to this section. Here are 7 strategies and techniques you can use to generally avoid losing money to scams. If someone has reached out to you and is asking you for personal details or is asking you to make a transaction, you should hang up, discontinue the conversation, and figure out a way to contact them back through your own means. So for example, if someone has called you and is pretending to be from the bank or is actually perhaps from the bank, then there's no problem. Just hang up and call the bank back and say, look, I got this call. I just want to make sure that it's correct. And the way that you get the number is not from them to call back. You actually get a number from completely separate devices where you Google that number and then you call that number. Don't get it from them, because otherwise that's the whole point of this exercise defeated. And sometimes, to be fair, legitimate companies will reach out to you as well. That's perfectly normal. So this is not a blanket ban on responding to any company on the phone, but if they are asking you to share personal details, click on links or share passcodes or keys or to your phone or making unusual transfers of money, just hang up. It's just safer that way. And there's no shame whatsoever in consulting with someone else, perhaps someone more tech savvy, your kids perhaps, or investment or legal professionals as well in your network. And I know it can feel rather embarrassing or perhaps even humiliating at times, but you don't want to lose your life savings because you didn't want to be embarrassed. The next thing you can do is go on the FCA register. And again, you want to type the FCA register in the browser yourself and check if the company that you are dealing with is actually listed on there. And if it is listed, it means that the UK financial regulator, and you can do the same check, by the way, in the USA with the SEC or Abu Dhabi, ADGM. In Dubai, there's a regulator. And when you do that, that gives you the comfort that some regulator has reviewed and approved this firm's activity. And as someone who actually runs a regulated firm, the regulator is very involved in keeping an eye on exactly what we're up to. And it keeps us on the toes and it keeps our clients ultimately protected. This is a massive signal that this is a reputable firm. This doesn't mean, by the way, that any firm that isn't on this register is not legitimate. There are legitimate firms who are not FCA authorized or regulated, particularly those that are starting out on their journey. But frankly, any firm really, I think, of significant scale in any area of investment where they are asking you for your money really should be FCA authorized. The next thing you can do is make test payments before you wire the entire sum over. Sometimes scammers can intervene and change bank details even over email. So that way, if you're making actual test payments, then you can call the person and check if that money has arrived. If it hasn't, and somehow a scammer has intervened in the middle, at least you've caught it and you've only spent £1 on that. If someone is offering you crazy returns, for example, 50 to 100% per annum, increase your due diligence and slow down even more. There are rare examples where such investments can and do exist, but they are extremely rare, and the chances are that you as an amateur investor are not getting access to them. The chances are that you're just getting scammed. Next, when you initially invest a smaller portion of your portfolio and then increase it in volume as you become more comfortable with things as they go along. This also gives you the time to talk to others in your network and find out what they're doing and get their feedback about this particular investment. Finally, if you're investing larger amounts, try to get a trusted professional involved to help you vet things. This could be your accountant, your lawyer, your financial advisor, your tax advisor. These folks deal daily with investment firms, so they will have a much better sense than you do of sniffing out any red flags. Look, I know this has been a pretty heavy video to watch, but the good news is that there are many reputable firms out there. And just remember, the returns they offer don't get much more exciting than that 20 to 30% annum. That's probably the most exciting. And honestly, even that is at the aggressive end of the spectrum. Get comfortable expecting between 4 and 12% returns per year for most of your investments. The returns might not be as wild as what the scammers are promising, but at least you won't lose everything you've worked so hard for. If you found this video useful, please do share it with your friends and your family so that they can also learn and be protected and their wealth is protected. You might just save someone from losing their life savings by sharing this with them. And don't forget to subscribe. We're on a mission to help our Ummah level up financially through education, and we don't want you to miss out on any upcoming videos. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.